Every day you wake up is a blank canvas, a chance to create something new. The brush is in your hand. The question is, what will you paint? Will it be a masterpiece filled with purpose, wisdom, and growth? Or will it be another day lost to distraction and regret? The answer is not written in fate. It is written in the choices you make. Your life is not shaped by the occasional big decisions you make, but by the small, seemingly insignificant choices that accumulate over time. Every thought, every habit, every action is a brick in the foundation of the life you are building. Some people create castles of discipline, clarity, and resilience. Others build walls of stress, uncertainty, and stagnation. And most never stop to ask, what am I building? The truth is, most people don't realize what is truly holding them back. They chase success but feel empty. They accumulate wealth but lack fulfillment. They reach milestone after milestone but still feel lost. Why? Because they focus on the surface, ignoring the roots of what creates lasting peace and purpose. So ask yourself, what's missing? Why do some people radiate a deep sense of calm and certainty while others are overwhelmed despite having everything? What are the essential elements that transform an ordinary life into one of strength and wisdom? There are 10 things you must work on every single day to create a life of fulfillment and clarity. And if you grasp just one of them, just one, it could change the way you approach growth forever. The first thing you must improve daily is your attitude. Life will test you. Some days will feel like a storm, relentless and unforgiving. But remember the bamboo tree. It bends in the wind, yet never breaks. It sways with the storm, but remains deeply rooted in the earth. This is the essence of cultivating a strong mind. It is not about denying hardship. It is about meeting life with resilience. Too often we resist what is. We fight against reality, wishing things were different. But suffering is not born from pain itself. It is born from resistance to pain. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is a choice. The moment you accept what you cannot control, you unlock peace. A setback at work, a betrayal from a friend, a dream that didn't unfold as expected. These are not punishments. They are teachers. Lessons in disguise. A monk once told a young disciple a profound truth. You are not punished for your anger. You are punished by your anger. The same is true for a negative mindset. It is its own prison. When you see life through frustration, doubt, and limitation, everything appears as an enemy. But when you approach each day with an open heart, even failure becomes a lesson. Even rejection becomes redirection. There is an old story of a farmer who lost his horse. His neighbors pitied him, saying, "Such bad luck." But the farmer simply replied, "Maybe." Days later, the horse returned with a group of wild horses. "How lucky," the neighbors exclaimed. Again, the farmer said, "Maybe." Then, while taming one of the wild horses, the farmer's son broke his leg. The neighbors saw this as misfortune, until the army came to draft all the young men, except the injured son. The lesson? Life is not black or white. What seems bad today may be a blessing tomorrow. A strong mind trusts that whatever happens is leading you where you need to be. But here's something even deeper. Your attitude doesn't just affect you. It spreads like ripples in a pond. Your energy influences those around you. Walk into a room with joy, and others feel lighter. Face struggles with calmness, and you become a source of strength for others. A kind word, a patient heart, a willingness to see the good even in difficulty. These things transform not just your life, but the lives of everyone you meet. A single candle can light 1,000 others without losing its own flame. Your positivity has that same power. A moment of patience when someone is angry. A smile when someone is struggling. Encouragement instead of criticism. These choices create a ripple effect of kindness that shapes the world in ways you may never even see. So today, ask yourself, what's one situation I can approach with a more open mind? What challenge can I embrace instead of resist? Growth is not found in comfort. It is found in how you rise again and again, no matter how strong the storm. Imagine that every day of your life is a blank canvas, waiting to be painted with the choices you make. Each moment holds the power to shape your destiny, yet most people live as if they have no control, as if life is happening to them instead of being created by them. But the truth is, You are the artist of your own existence, and the brush is in your hands. The question is, what kind of masterpiece will you create? Will your days be filled with growth, purpose, and wisdom, or will they be lost to distractions, regrets, and unfulfilled potential? The world constantly bombards you with noise, pulling you in different directions, filling your mind with fears, doubts, and limitations. Yet beneath the surface of all that chaos, there is a deeper truth, one that few ever come to realize. Your life is being shaped not by the massive decisions you make once in a while, but by the small, seemingly insignificant choices you make every single day. Your mindset, your discipline, your habits, these are the bricks of the foundation you are building. Every thought you entertain, every action you take, every moment you allow to slip by unconsciously is either constructing a wiser, stronger version of yourself or leading you further into stress, uncertainty, and stagnation. But the real challenge is this: most people don't even recognize what's truly holding them back. They spend years chasing success, striving for recognition, accumulating things they believe will bring them happiness, and yet deep inside they feel empty, disconnected, lost. They stand in front of the mirror and ask, "Why do I feel this way?" The answer is not in external achievements, but in the internal work that has been neglected. The truth is, most people are searching for something outside of themselves that can only be found within. They believe that once they achieve a certain status, once they have the perfect job, the ideal relationship, the dream home, then they will finally feel whole. But how many stories have you heard of people who seem to have it all, yet still struggled with unhappiness, depression, and a lack of fulfillment? The world has conditioned you to believe that success and happiness are destinations, something you arrive at after years of effort. But what if that belief is wrong? What if true fulfillment is not about reaching some distant point in the future, but about who you are becoming every single day? The secret to transforming your life is not in waiting for a perfect moment, nor is it in achieving something grand that will finally make you feel worthy. It is in what you choose to work on every day. Your habits, your thoughts, your attitude. These are the forces shaping your reality. Imagine two people walking through life. One is constantly reactive, always at the mercy of their emotions, easily swayed by circumstances. When difficulties arise, they resist, complain, and blame the world. They let the opinions of others dictate their self-worth, and they live in fear of failure, never daring to step beyond their comfort zone. The other person, however, moves with purpose. They understand that life is unpredictable, that challenges are inevitable, but they do not fight against reality. Instead, they adapt, they grow, they learn. When obstacles appear, they do not see them as barriers, but as stepping stones. Their mindset, their discipline, and their habits are all aligned toward a greater vision. And because of that, they experience peace even in the midst of struggle. The question is, which one are you? Are you waiting for the world to change so that you can finally feel at peace? Or are you willing to change yourself so that no matter what the world throws at you, you remain unshaken? If you want a different life, you must begin with a different approach. You must stop focusing on what you cannot control and start focusing on what you can. Every single day you have the power to choose how you think, how you respond, how you move through the world. And these choices, though they may seem small, compound over time, shaping the trajectory of your entire existence. But here is where most people fail. They believe change must be dramatic, immediate. They think transformation happens in a single moment of inspiration, a single breakthrough that shifts everything at once. But real growth does not work that way. Growth is slow, it is quiet. It happens in the spaces between your grand aspirations. It happens in the way you respond to frustration, in the way you choose discipline over comfort, in the way you stay committed even when no one is watching. Most people will never see it because they are too focused on the big picture, too impatient to endure the daily work that true transformation requires. But those who understand this secret, those who embrace the process, they are the ones who build lives of unshakable strength, wisdom, and purpose. But make no mistake, life will test you. There will be days when you feel lost, when you feel like your efforts are meaningless, when the weight of the world feels too heavy to bear. You will face failure, heartbreak, and moments of deep uncertainty. But this is not a sign that you are on the wrong path. This is the fire that forges you. Just as steel must be tempered in the heat of the flames, just as the strongest trees grow deep roots through the harshest storms, so too must you endure the trials that shape you. And the key to surviving these moments is in the daily practices that strengthen your mind and spirit. The problem is, most people spend their lives resisting reality. They fight against what is, wishing things were different, blaming circumstances, seeking comfort instead of growth. But Buddhism teaches a different way: acceptance. It does not mean passivity, nor does it mean giving up. It means understanding that suffering is not born from pain itself, but from your resistance to it. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. The moment you stop wishing for things to be different and instead focus on how you can adapt, how you can learn, how you can use every experience as a tool for growth, you unlock a level of inner peace that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. Think of a bamboo tree in the middle of a storm. It bends with the wind, sways with the force of the storm, but it never breaks. It remains rooted, strong, unshaken. This is the essence of resilience. The storms of life will come. This is unavoidable. But whether they destroy you or strengthen you is entirely in your hands. You must learn to bend without breaking, to adapt without losing yourself, to remain centered even when the world around you is in chaos. There is a story of a farmer whose horse ran away. His neighbors pitied him, saying, "Such bad luck." But the farmer simply replied, "Maybe." Days later, the horse returned, bringing wild horses with it. The neighbors exclaimed, "How lucky!" Again, the farmer said, "Maybe." Then his son broke his leg taming one of the wild horses. The neighbors shook their heads, "Such misfortune." But again, the farmer only said, "Maybe." Soon after, the army arrived, drafting all young men for war, except for the farmer's son, who was spared because of his injury. What seemed bad turned out to be a blessing. What seemed like a blessing could have been a disaster. The lesson? Life is not black or white. What appears to be misfortune today may be the very thing that leads you to something greater tomorrow. A strong mind does not label experiences as good or bad. It trusts. It adapts. It sees everything as part of the journey. This is the mindset that will set you free. This is the way of those who rise above the noise, who walk through fire and emerge stronger, who stop explaining themselves and instead allow their actions to speak. So ask yourself, what kind of masterpiece will you create with the brush in your hand? The choice has always been yours. There is a weight you have been carrying for far too long, a burden you were never meant to bear. It is the weight of explanation, the burden of constantly justifying yourself, the endless cycle of seeking understanding from those who were never meant to see you. And the truth is, it has exhausted you. It has drained you. It has stolen your time, your energy, your peace. But what if you could put it down? What if, in this moment, you made the choice to stop explaining, to stop justifying, to stop begging for validation that was never yours to seek? Most people will never understand this kind of freedom. They are too deeply entangled in the illusion that they must be accepted to be whole. They spend their days shaping themselves into something digestible, something agreeable, something that will not disrupt the expectations placed upon them. But in doing so, they betray themselves. They trade their authenticity for approval, their truth for acceptance, their power for the comfort of fitting in. But you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to rise beyond the need to be understood. You were meant to exist so fully, so unapologetically, that no explanation is required. Imagine a river flowing down a mountainside. It does not ask for permission to move. It does not stop to explain its course. It does not wait for approval to continue. It simply flows, carving its path with quiet certainty, knowing that the ones who are meant to follow will follow, and the ones who are not will be left behind. This is how you must live, but the world will resist. The moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you step into your own power, people will notice. Some will admire you, others will resent you. Some will question you, demand answers, try to pull you back into the version of yourself that they once knew. But here is what you must understand. Their discomfort is not your burden to carry. There is an old Zen story of a monk who walked through a village, his presence calm, unshaken, unwavering. People stopped him, asking where he was going, what his purpose was, why he walked with such certainty. But the monk did not answer. He simply continued on his path, knowing that those who truly wish to understand would not need an explanation. This is how true wisdom moves, silently, effortlessly, without the need for justification. But most people will never reach this level of awareness. They will continue to explain, to argue, to fight for a place in the world that was already theirs to claim. They will exhaust themselves trying to make others see what was never meant to be seen by all. And so you must ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth giving your energy to those who will never truly listen? Is it worth delaying your growth for the sake of those who do not wish to understand? Is it worth trading your peace for the illusion of acceptance? The answer is no, because the truth is the ones who are meant to walk with you will not need explanations. They will not demand justifications. They will recognize your energy, your presence, your certainty, and they will understand without words. And the ones who do not, they were never meant to walk with you in the first place, so let them misunderstand, let them question, let them talk. It is not your responsibility to correct them. Your only task is to move forward, unshaken, unapologetic, free. There is a kind of power that does not require force, a strength that does not need to be announced. It is the power of the unshakable, the ones who have stepped beyond the need for approval, beyond the hunger for validation, beyond the exhausting cycle of explaining themselves. It is the power of presence, the kind of presence that shifts the energy of a room without a single word. The kind that commands respect not because it demands it, but because it no longer seeks it. But most people never reach this place. They remain trapped in a game they do not even realize they are playing. They argue, they defend, they justify, hoping that one day, if they explain themselves well enough, the world will finally understand them. But that day never comes, because the world does not reward explanation, it rewards certainty. The ones who move with certainty, who know who they are and refuse to waste their energy convincing others, they are the ones who shape reality. Imagine a river flowing through a valley. It does not explain why it carves through stone. It does not ask for permission to keep moving. It does not justify its course to those who do not understand its path. It simply flows unstoppable, shaping the landscape around it, yet untouched by the opinions of those who watch from the shore. You must become like the river, but to do that you must first release the need to be understood. Because the moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you realize that your path does not require validation, you become untouchable. Most people do not understand how much of their energy is wasted in trying to be understood. They replay conversations in their minds, thinking of all the ways they could have explained themselves better. They allow criticism to consume them, desperately wanting to set the record straight. They bend, they shrink, they alter their truth so that others will accept it. And yet, no matter how much they explain, no matter how much they try to justify themselves, the judgment never stops. The misunderstandings never end. The world does not hand out approval, it hands out tests. And the greatest test of all is this: can you stand in your truth, even when no one else understands it? The ones who pass this test, the ones who refuse to explain, who no longer feel the need to prove themselves, they move differently. They walk through life with an ease that most will never know, because they have realized something most never do. Freedom is not found in being accepted. It is found in not needing to be. But letting go of the need to explain is not easy. The world will resist. It will demand justification. It will try to pull you back into the cycle of proving, of defending, of seeking approval. It will test you, asking, who do you think you are to rise without permission? And in that moment, you must decide, will you fall back into the old patterns? Or will you stand firm, unshaken, knowing that you no longer owe anyone an explanation? There is an old story of a warrior who was challenged by an enemy in the middle of a crowded village. The enemy insulted him, mocked him, tried to provoke him into a fight, but the warrior did not move. He did not react. He simply stood, silent, watching. The enemy grew angrier, shouting louder, waiting for the warrior to strike back. But still, the warrior did nothing. Finally, exhausted and humiliated, the enemy left. When asked why he did not respond, the warrior smiled and said, "If someone brings you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong?" This is the secret. When you stop reacting, when you stop explaining, when you refuse to engage in battles that do not serve you, you win without fighting. But here is where most people struggle. They believe that by explaining themselves, they will gain respect. That if they can just make others see their truth, they will finally be accepted. But the truth is, those who want to misunderstand you will misunderstand you, no matter how well you explain. And those who truly see you, they do not need an explanation. There is a kind of quiet strength in those who no longer seek to be understood. You can see it in their eyes, in the way they move, in the way they hold themselves. They do not chase, they do not beg. They do not waste words on those who have already made up their minds. They know that their time is too valuable, their energy too sacred, their purpose too great to be wasted on those who do not want to see. And this is what you must learn. Not how to explain yourself better, not how to win more arguments, not how to make the world see you, but how to stop needing it to. Because the moment you do, everything changes. You walk differently, you speak differently. You no longer seek permission to exist as you are, and in doing so, you become something rare, something powerful, someone who no longer reacts, but who simply moves. Think of the sun. It does not apologize for shining too brightly. It does not dim itself for those who find its light uncomfortable. It does not seek approval for rising each morning. It simply rises. And those who cannot handle its heat, they find shade. You must live the same way. Let those who cannot handle your light remove themselves. Let those who do not understand your path step aside. Let those who demand explanations exhaust themselves waiting. Because you were never meant to be explained. You were meant to become so undeniable that no explanation is needed. There is a rare kind of strength that comes not from fighting battles, not from proving your worth, but from knowing deep within that you need to prove nothing at all. It is the strength of those who no longer explain, who no longer justify, who no longer bend to meet the expectations of those who refuse to understand them. It is a strength that comes from stillness, from certainty, from the kind of presence that demands nothing yet commands everything. Most people never reach this place. They remain trapped in an endless cycle of seeking approval, of trying to be understood, of explaining themselves to those who have already made up their minds. They live their lives reacting, defending, pleading for recognition, hoping that if they just say the right words, if they just explain well enough, they will finally be seen. But they never are, because those who refuse to see you were never meant to. And so the ones who rise, the ones who become untouchable, they are the ones who stop explaining. They are the ones who walk forward without looking back. They are the ones who let go, not just of the need to be accepted, but of the illusion that acceptance was ever required in the first place. Imagine a great mountain standing in the middle of a storm. The winds howl, the rain pours, the sky rages with thunder, and yet the mountain does not move. It does not fight the storm. It does not try to explain itself to the wind. It simply is. And when the storm passes, as all storms do, the mountain remains, unshaken, unchanged, untouched by the chaos that once surrounded it. You must become like this mountain, but the world will test you. The moment you stop explaining yourself, people will resist. They will demand answers. They will accuse you of arrogance, of coldness, of being distant. Not because you have done anything wrong, but because they no longer know how to control you. People who are used to your explanations will feel unsettled when you stop giving them. They will push, they will provoke, they will try to pull you back into the old patterns where they held power over your emotions, but you do not need to fight them. You do not need to argue. You do not need to make them understand. Because the moment you stop explaining, you take back something that was always yours, your energy. Think of all the time you have spent justifying your choices. Think of all the moments you have wasted trying to be understood by those who refuse to listen. Think of all the nights you have spent replaying conversations, searching for the perfect words to make them see you. And now imagine what would happen if you let all of that go. If you no longer felt the need to explain, if you no longer chased understanding, if you no longer wasted your energy on battles that could never be won. Imagine how much lighter you would feel. Imagine how much more powerful you would become. There is an old parable of a wise sage who sat by a river, watching the water flow. A man approached him and asked, "Why do you sit here, day after day, doing nothing?" The sage smiled and said nothing. The man grew frustrated and demanded an answer, but the sage remained silent. Days passed, and the man kept returning, desperate for an explanation, but the sage never spoke. Eventually, the man left, confused and angry. But in his absence, the sage continued sitting, watching, existing, unbothered, unshaken, free. This is the way of those who no longer explain. They do not engage in unnecessary battles. They do not waste words on those who are not ready to hear. They do not concern themselves with how others perceive them. They simply live. And in doing so, they become something that few ever dared to be, truly free. So let them question. Let them misunderstand. Let them demand answers you will never give. It is not your job to be understood. It is your job to become. And once you realize that, once you embrace the silence that comes with no longer explaining, you will step into a power that no force in this world can shake. Because the mountain does not explain itself, and neither do you. There is a weight that most people carry without ever realizing it. It is not the weight of failure, nor is it the burden of responsibility. It is the invisible heaviness of seeking approval. It seeps into every decision, every hesitation, every moment of doubt. It is the silent force behind the fear of being judged, the reluctance to take risks, the endless explanations given to those who will never truly listen. And the truth is, it is exhausting. Most people live their entire lives trapped by this unseen force. They shape their dreams based on what others expect. They hold themselves back because they are afraid of what people will think. They explain, defend, justify, desperately hoping that if they just say the right words, if they just make others understand, they will finally feel free. But they never do, because freedom does not come from being understood. It comes from no longer needing to be. Imagine standing at the base of a mountain. You have spent years preparing to climb, but every time you take a step forward, someone stops you. They ask why you are climbing. They demand that you explain your reasons. Some question whether you are strong enough. Others tell you that you should take a different path. And so you stop. You waste time justifying yourself to people who have never climbed and never will. You defend your journey to those who do not have the vision to see where you are going. And before you know it, the day is over. You have gone nowhere. This is what happens when you live for validation. You cannot explain your vision to those who refuse to see. You cannot convince people to understand a path they were never meant to walk. And yet, so many people try. They bend, they adjust, they shrink themselves, hoping that if they just make themselves small enough, acceptable enough, likable enough, they will finally be embraced. But the cost of this is far greater than they realize. Because every time you explain yourself to those who are determined not to understand, you lose a piece of yourself. Every time you pause your journey to defend your right to walk it, you delay your own progress. Every time you seek validation, you place your worth in the hands of those who may never give it. And when you do this long enough, you forget that you never needed permission in the first place. There is a story of a warrior who walked through a village where people mocked him, insulted him, tried to provoke him, but the warrior never reacted. He did not stop to defend himself. He did not explain his purpose. He simply kept walking. When asked why he did not fight back, he said, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong?" The lesson is clear. What you do not accept cannot touch you. But most people accept everything. They take every insult personally. They carry the weight of other people's opinions. They react, they defend, they explain, never realizing that they have the power to simply not engage. Think about the last time someone questioned your choices, your beliefs, your dreams. How did you respond? Did you try to explain? Did you try to make them understand? And did it change anything? Or did it only leave you feeling drained, frustrated, and stuck? The truth is, the moment you stop explaining, The moment you stop needing to be understood, you step into a power that most people will never experience. You become untouchable. You become someone who does not seek validation, who does not fear judgment, who does not need approval to move forward. And that is the kind of strength that cannot be controlled. But the world will test you. The moment you stop explaining yourself, people will notice. Some will admire you. Others will feel threatened. Some will try to pull you back into old patterns, demand explanations, seek to regain control. Let them. Their discomfort is not your burden. There is a reason the ocean does not explain its tides. The river does not justify its flow. The sun does not seek permission to rise. They exist in their fullness, without apology, without hesitation, without the need to be understood. And so must you. But understand this, when you stop explaining yourself, you will lose people. Some will drift away. Some will turn against you. Some will call you distant, selfish, arrogant. Let them. The ones who were meant to walk with you will recognize your silence for what it is. Not arrogance, but clarity. Not coldness, but strength. Not distance, but freedom. And when you finally step into this space, when you finally stop justifying, defending, explaining, something incredible happens. You realize that you never needed approval. You never needed validation. You never needed to prove anything to anyone. Because your existence, your growth, your journey, none of it was ever up for debate. Imagine standing in a field at sunrise. The world is quiet. The air is still. There is no need to explain why the sun rises, why the wind moves, why the earth turns. It simply happens. It simply is. And in that moment, you understand. This is how you were meant to live, without explanation, without permission, without waiting for the world to tell you that you are enough, because you already are. And the moment you accept that, you will never need to explain yourself again. Imagine waking up each morning with a fresh canvas before you. In your hands, you hold the brush, ready to paint the day ahead. But what will you create? A masterpiece of growth, wisdom, and purpose? Or another day lost to distractions and regret? Every thought, every action, every habit you choose is a brushstroke on the grand portrait of your life. Right now, without realizing it, you are shaping your future. Not through grand, sweeping decisions made once in a while, but through the seemingly insignificant choices you make every single day. Your mindset, your discipline, your habits. These are either building a stronger, wiser version of you, or leading you further into stress, uncertainty, and stagnation. The challenge is that most people never stop to ask what is truly holding them back. They chase success yet ignore the very foundation of fulfillment. They accumulate wealth but feel empty. They achieve milestones but lack peace. So ask yourself, what is missing? Why do some people radiate purpose and inner peace, while others, despite having everything, feel lost? What are the hidden principles that, when practiced daily, will transform your life at its core? And if there was just one lesson that could change the way you approach growth forever, would you be ready to hear it? Because that lesson is coming. But before it does, understand this. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the architect of your destiny. The first foundation of transformation begins with something deceptively simple: your attitude. Life will test you. Some days will feel like an endless storm, relentless and unforgiving. But consider the bamboo tree. It bends with the wind but never breaks. It sways in the storm but remains deeply rooted in the earth. This is resilience. Strength is not found in resisting hardship, but in learning to move with it, to embrace it, to transform it into wisdom. Too often people resist reality, fighting against what is, wishing things were different. But suffering does not come from pain alone. It comes from our resistance to pain. Pain is inevitable, but suffering, that is a choice. The moment you accept what you cannot control, you unlock peace. A setback at work, a betrayal from a friend, a dream that did not unfold as expected. These are not punishments, they are teachers. When you shift your perspective, you shift your entire reality. There is an old story of a farmer who lost his horse. His neighbors pitied him, saying, "What bad luck?" But the farmer simply replied, "Maybe." Days later, the horse returned, bringing wild horses with it. "How lucky," the neighbors exclaimed. Again, the farmer said, "Maybe." Then his son broke his leg while taming one of the wild horses. The neighbors saw this as misfortune, until the army arrived, drafting all able young men except the injured son. The lesson? Life is not black or white. What seems bad today may be a blessing tomorrow. A positive attitude does not mean ignoring hardship. It means trusting that whatever happens is guiding you to where you need to be. But here's the deeper truth. Your attitude is not just for you. It spreads like ripples in a pond, shaping the world around you in ways you may never see. A single candle can light 1,000 others without losing its flame, and your energy has that same power. A kind word, a patient response, a moment of encouragement instead of criticism. These choices create waves of transformation. So today, ask yourself, what challenge can I embrace instead of resisting? What moment today can I approach with a more open mind? True growth is not found in comfort. It is found in the storms, in the rising again and again, no matter how strong the winds may be. The second foundation of transformation lies in your ability to communicate. Words are bridges. They can connect hearts or build walls. They can heal or wound. Yet in today's world, communication has become careless. We speak without thinking. We listen without hearing. We react without understanding. But what if instead of speaking to reply, we spoke to connect? Imagine a man constantly arguing with his wife, every conversation turning into a battle. One day, exhausted, he visits a monk and asks, "Why does she never understand me?" The monk hands him a bowl of water. "Stir it," he says. The man does. The water becomes cloudy. "Now be still." The man waits. Slowly, the water clears. "Your words stir the water," the monk explains. "How can you see the truth if you never let it settle?" This is the power of mindful communication. When we speak in anger, we cloud the conversation. When we listen only to reply, we miss the truth. The principle of right speech teaches that words should be truthful, kind, and spoken with awareness. But right speech is not just about what we say, it is about when to speak and when to be silent. A single moment of patience can prevent years of regret. A thoughtful pause can turn an argument into an understanding. But here is the twist. Sometimes silence is the most powerful form of communication. A quiet mind listens better. A moment of stillness can shift the entire energy of a conversation. In history, the greatest moments of wisdom did not come from rushed words, but from deep listening. In business, the best leaders listen more than they talk. In relationships, true intimacy comes not from words alone, but from presence. In friendships, the ones we trust most are not those who talk the loudest, but those who truly hear us. Miscommunication fuels stress, frustration, and distance. But mindful communication heals. It strengthens. It unites. So how do you practice this? First, speak with intention. Before you say something, ask yourself, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Second, listen with presence. When someone speaks, do not just hear their words, understand their emotions, their meaning. Listen without planning your response. Third, embrace the power of silence. Not every thought needs to be spoken. Not every moment needs to be filled with noise. A well-built bridge stands for years, allowing people to cross safely. A poorly built one collapses, cutting off connection. Your words are the same. Every time you speak, you are building a bridge, either toward understanding or away from it. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you truly listened without planning your response? The quality of your communication determines the quality of your relationships. Build your bridge with care, and as you begin to master your words, there is one more foundation that will determine whether you rise or remain stagnant. Discipline. Discipline is the hands of the sculptor shaping clay. Every choice, every habit, every moment of restraint is molding you into the person you are becoming. Without discipline, clay remains formless, potential without direction. But with patience, with precision, it transforms into something strong, something purposeful. The greatest illusion is that freedom comes from doing whatever you want. But the truth is, freedom is found in discipline. A mind without direction is like an untamed horse, wild, restless, easily led astray. But a disciplined mind, it becomes unstoppable. The Buddha once said, "I want peace, Then he smiled and replied, "Remove I, for that is ego. Remove want, for that is attachment. And what remains is peace." This is the essence of discipline. It is not suffering. It is not restriction. It is mastery. Mastery over your impulses, mastery over your distractions, mastery over the mind itself. Every day, life hands you a blank canvas, waiting for you to paint upon it. Each choice you make, every thought you entertain, and every habit you reinforce becomes a stroke on this ever-evolving masterpiece. But ask yourself, are you crafting something remarkable, something filled with wisdom, growth, and purpose? Or are you letting the days slip by, consumed by distractions and regrets? Most people fail to realize that their lives are not shaped by the rare, massive decisions they make once in a while, but by the small, seemingly insignificant choices they repeat every single day. Your mindset, your discipline, your habits. These are either building a wiser, stronger version of you, or they are pulling you deeper into stress, uncertainty, and stagnation. People chase success for years, not realizing they are running in circles, ignoring the very foundation of real fulfillment. But why is it that some individuals radiate peace and purpose, while others, despite having everything, feel lost? What separates those who are truly alive from those who are merely existing? Imagine if there were 10 simple yet powerful things you could work on daily, things that would shift your reality, transform your thinking, and bring you closer to a life of meaning. And what if, at the very end, there was a secret so profound that it could alter the way you approach growth forever? The first thing you must master every day is your attitude. Life will test you. Some days will feel like an unrelenting storm, but remember the wisdom of the bamboo tree. It bends with the wind yet never breaks. It sways with the storm, but its roots remain deep in the earth. This is the essence of a resilient attitude. It is not about denying hardship, but about meeting life with unwavering strength, seeing obstacles not as roadblocks, but as stepping stones. Too often, we resist what is. We fight against reality, wishing things were different. But suffering does not arise from pain itself. It is born from our resistance to it. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. The moment you accept what you cannot control, you unlock peace. A setback at work, a betrayal from a friend, a dream that did not go as planned. These are not punishments. They are teachers. They are lessons in disguise. When you shift your perspective, you shift your reality. A wise monk once told his disciple, "You are not punished for your anger, you are punished by your anger." In the same way, a negative mindset is its own prison. When you look at life through a lens of frustration, doubt, and limitation, everything appears as an enemy. But when you choose to approach each day with an open heart, even failure becomes a lesson, and rejection becomes redirection. There is an old story of a farmer who lost his horse. His neighbors pitied him, saying, "It's such bad luck." The farmer only replied, "Maybe." Days later, the horse returned, bringing wild horses with it. The neighbors now exclaimed, "How lucky!" Again, the farmer said, "Maybe." Soon after, his son broke his leg while taming one of the wild horses. Once more, the neighbors saw this as misfortune until the army arrived, drafting all the young men except the injured son. The lesson? Life is not black or white. What seems like a curse today may turn into a blessing tomorrow. A positive attitude is not just optimism. It is the ability to trust that everything is leading you where you need to be. But here's the truth. Your attitude is not just for you. It spreads like ripples in a pond. Your energy, your mindset, affects the people around you. Walk into a room with joy, and others feel lighter. Face your struggles with calmness, and you become a source of strength for others. A kind word, a patient heart, a willingness to see the good even in difficulty. These choices create a ripple effect of transformation, shaping the world in ways you may never even see. A single candle can light 1,000 others without losing its own flame. Your positivity has that same power. So ask yourself, what is one situation you can approach with a more open mind today? What challenge can you embrace instead of resisting? True growth is not found in comfort, but in how you rise again and again, no matter how strong the storm. The second thing you must refine daily is your communication. Words are bridges. They can connect hearts or create distance. Every conversation is an opportunity to build understanding, yet too often, people let their words become walls. The wisdom of right speech teaches that words should be truthful, kind, and spoken with awareness. Yet in today's world, miscommunication has become a silent thief, stealing peace from relationships, workplaces, and even our own minds. Most people speak without thinking, listen without hearing, and react without understanding. But what if you approached communication with intention? What if, instead of speaking to reply, you spoke to connect? Imagine a man who constantly argued with his wife. Every discussion became a battle, each one trying to prove the other wrong. Exhausted, he visited a monk and asked, "Why does she never understand me?" The monk smiled and handed him a bowl of water. "Stir it," he said. The man did, and the water became cloudy. "Now, be still." The man waited, and the water settled, becoming clear again. The monk then said, "Your words stir the water. How can you see the truth if you never let it settle?" This is the power of mindful communication. When we speak in anger, we cloud the conversation. When we listen only to reply, we miss the truth. Right speech is not just about what we say, it is about when to speak and when to remain silent. A single moment of patience can prevent years of regret. A well-timed pause can mean the difference between conflict and understanding. But here's the twist. Sometimes silence is the most powerful form of communication. A quiet mind listens better. A thoughtful pause can transform a conversation from chaos to clarity. When we hold space for others, when we allow silence to exist between words, we invite true connection. Think of the greatest moments of wisdom in history. Many were born not from loud declarations, but from deep listening. In business, the best leaders listen more than they talk. In relationships, true intimacy comes not from words alone, but from presence. In friendships, the ones we trust most are not those who talk the loudest, but those who truly hear us.